Good evening, everyone. My name is Renee Moore. On behalf of the Fairfax County Alumni Chapter President, Helene Fisher, and the members of the Financial Fortitude Committee, it is my pleasure to welcome and thank you for joining us this evening. Our presentations are offered to assist you in building a strong financial foundation. Tonight, we will focus on the whys behind our financial decisions. At this time, please give your attention to Soror Angelina McCarthy Bryan.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We know that you could have been anywhere, but you are with us, and we truly appreciate that. So without further ado, we are going to take a look back so we can share with you some information from our past presentations to bring you to the forefront as to how we have derived at the event this evening. Tonight, we bring you the mindset and money management, the whys behind our financial decisions. And we have tonight as our presenter for the evening, Kavette Miner Kane. Kavette is also an author, and we will be taking a look at the book that she has produced and created called Time to Thrive. Transform your mind and transform your money to thrive. 10 Steps to Self-Sufficiency by Kavette Miner Kane, who is noted as a financial liberation expert. As we take a look forward, you'll be able to see some previous financial sessions that we have held. The Financial Fortitude Committee with Fairfax County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated has a focus on educating, on liberating, and helping all of the community that we serve to be self-sufficient in understanding financial literacy and information as provided. So this was our foundational focus, which is building a strong financial foundation. And this was focusing on the principles of creating your own financial blueprint. This brings us into also the discussion of generational wealth. These guests that you are seeing before you are individuals who have come and provided their expertise in this financial discussion. We had Douglas Eze and we had Eugene Mitchell. In addition to that, we have focused on estate planning, where we have brought in attorney Amy D. Griffin, who has come to provide information regarding the best ways to take steps forward in your estate planning. We have also brought before you long-term care. Long-term care was a great discussion in understanding its benefits and the abilities to acquire a long-term care policy. We then brought before you Jason Howe, and these are the 7 strategies for transforming your finances. This again was a great discussion on how to build a strong financial foundation. In addition to that, we brought forth here again understanding the foundation of the principles that are fundamental to any good blueprint. And we're going to get into some visuals as to what we mean regarding a blueprint. And again, we had brought Amy forth because we wanted to take a closer, in-depth look into estate planning. And that's exactly what we did. Most recently in September, we brought a panel group which consisted of Eugene, Jason, Amy, Tremaine, and myself, who discussed a very important topic called closing the wealth gap and what steps we can do to assist with closing the financial wealth gap. Now, we also brought a very hot topic. This was understanding cryptocurrency 101, and we brought before you Ansela Ramsey, who was an author, and discussed the Crypto Beginners Bundle and understanding, more importantly, how cryptocurrency works and its importance. In addition to that, many of our guests are authors, as Kavette is. And this is the books that we have provided and brought forth to the community and empowered our community to learn even more. This was the cryptocurrency bundle session that discussed how to take those steps forward in creating cryptocurrency. This is information here because as we go forth, we want to make sure that you understand that we do not solicit in any way. However, we do provide this information as for informational purposes. It is so important that you discuss with your tax, legal, or accounting professionals before making any financial decisions. And we want to make sure that it's important to note that neither we, the committee, or specifically any company, are soliciting any business in any way. So moving forward, please take note here. Please note that individual situations can vary. Neither the information presented nor any opinion expressed constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any specific security. Neither Fairfax County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated or the members of the Financial Fortitude Committee are endorsing any individual, investment, product, or service discussed. And again, please consult with your financial professionals. And this is the disclaimer from our president, Helene L. Fisher. Now, where does this discussion come into place? This is us understanding that we are building a financial a blueprint, if you will. And this is looking at a home. Specifically, when we're talking about our finances, we have a protection barrier, which is the foundation, accumulation, and preservation. These are the areas that we have brought forth as a committee to the community. Understanding wills, power of attorneys, trusts, emergency savings, debt management, charitable continuance, health insurance, home insurance, disability income insurance, long-term care insurance, and life insurance. Now, with the building of our home, we're looking at cash flow, net worth, risk management, college funding, retirement planning, and wealth accumulation, all of which are important focuses to understand the building of your financial future. Now, this is a saying we share every session, that most people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And we don't want you to be in that category of people. Now, without further ado, we bring before you Kavette Minor Kane, and I will be reading her bio this evening. Kavette Minor Kane is a financial liberator, an educator, and advisor. She is an advocate for trauma awareness and ambassador for self-worth and gratitude, and a proponent for women's empowerment, especially for women in business. She guides her clients on their journey to self-sufficiency by educating them to take back their financial power and supporting them in gaining the confidence to fulfill their purpose in life. Kavette understands money trauma and financial abuse because of her personal experience. She is called the Mindset MoMA because of her focus on mindset and money mastery. She has survived and learned to thrive despite the challenges and obstacles that many face in her life. Her passion is to ease or prevent the pain of others with her personal insight and wisdom from the lessons she has turned into blessings. She has a bachelor's degree in finance and is certified in both emotional intelligence and financial education. Understanding the correlation between our emotions and our financial decisions, her goal is to increase the mindset awareness and improve money strategies. To assist those she serves in creating better habits to experience a greater quality of life, her motto is never underestimate your ability to thrive. She is a CEO and founder of Mary Moore Life, Mindset, and Money Management. In her mission is to educate and support financial literacy worldwide As an educator, a public speaker, and author, she shares her message of financial liberation through a transformational process called the 10 Steps to Self-Sufficiency, which are the basis of her book, pronounced Time to Thrive. And again, her book is titled Time to Thrive, Transform Your Mind and Transform Your Money to Thrive. Without further ado, Kivette, we welcome you. Thank you.
You're on mute.
I am. Thank you. Thank you so much, Angelina, and thank you all for having me here. Let me just take a moment to share my screen. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. And so you all see that we're talking about the whys behind our financial decisions. So understanding this reasoning is key for us in being able to move forward. So welcome to all in attendance. And again, I'd like to thank the Fairfax County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, your Financial Fortitude Committee, and Angelina McCarthy-Bryan. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here so that I have an opportunity to share my knowledge and perspective with you about this topic. So I'm going to ask just a couple of things that we kind of put our phones on airplane mode so that we're not disturbed, as well as that if you have an opportunity to grab a notebook and a pen, that you would take full advantage of that. And write down your questions because we'll have time at the end so that you're able to ask anything that comes to mind. Okay, I don't want you to forget them. All right, so I just want to commend you all first and foremost. Everyone that is here is already ahead of the curve. So if you know anything about how financial advising goes, unfortunately, half of our population does not even use a financial advisor. So you have, just by attending this event, already beaten that 54%, just because you're here. So congratulations for that. I, again, am your financial liberation expert. My name, again, is Kivette Minor Kane. And my motto, my theme for life is never underestimate your ability to thrive. I am the CEO, again, of More Life Mindset and Money Management, and have been the author of Time to Thrive. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But what I do is I guide my clients on their journey to self-sufficiency by teaching them about how our emotions affect our money management decisions so that we're able to do two things. First, we want to create better habits, right? And then we want to experience a greater quality of life. And so through that process, I have become educated. Obviously, I've got my degrees, as Angelina listed, and my certifications. But I also work with my clients through financial strategy, business planning, and mindset coaching. And that's important because I come to this financial services field from a very different perspective than many of my colleagues. I come from the mindset perspective first because of my own personal experience. Now, having been educated in finance, I have the knowledge, understanding how money works and what to do with it. However, I experienced some major traumas. Now, everyone here, if I ask you to raise your hand, I bet everybody's hand would be up that you've experienced a trauma in your life. None of us are exempt from that. The question, though, is how do we manage our responses, our trauma responses? Are we familiar with, or do we recognize the triggers that can cause us to go into an emotional spending situation? And are we able to keep that under control? And so that's where these two rules come into play, understanding that there's only really two things that we can do with money. And the first thing would be to keep it. And then the second thing would be to spend it. We come into a challenge where those two rules crisscross each other. And oftentimes, especially those who we find are living from paycheck to paycheck, end up spending their money before they're actually keeping it. And so that can create some challenge. The goal is to keep more of your money than you spend. So the real question here, why? Why is this a challenge for us? Why do we have an issue with keeping our money? Why do we have a challenge with spending our money? And there's 5 areas that we're going to talk about. The first one is understanding the examples that existed for us through childhood. You know, when you think back to the examples that were there for you, the question is, what was your influence? You know, how were those adults around you who were in control of the situations where you oftentimes had no control over the circumstances? How did they respond or react when money was a factor? So that draws us to the question of understanding for yourself personally, what is your money story? So your money story comes from the place of understanding your personal experience. So you're able to understand, okay, so my grandmama told me that money didn't grow on trees. And so that set in the belief early on that money was not an easy thing to come to me and that I was going to have to work hard. And so I have spent my whole life working hard for money. And now I get to this place where I feel like I should have some fruit to bear. But she said money doesn't grow on trees. And so I'm not seeing the fruit. And so how do we shift that narrative for ourselves based on what we have created as our money story from the past and how we're able to overcome the challenging beliefs that have been instilled in us early on? Do we recognize them? If we go without recognizing them, then we're in a position where there's nothing that we will do in order to heal from them, those money traumas that we talk about. And so when I come to you from that perspective, we also want to talk about then our emotions, because our emotions are the things that often guide us on this journey to what we identify as self-sufficiency. So now what is self-sufficiency? Self-sufficiency really is the opportunity that we have to provide for ourselves without dependency on an outside source. So when we get to a point in our lives where we're no longer able to work in exchanging our dollars or our hours for dollars, then we're able to have an income continuing to come through that will take care of us. That is the definition of self-sufficiency. Where we're not self-sufficient would be where we become dependent. And oftentimes that happens because of our lack of forethought. We just weren't clear on how much we actually needed to put in place so that we would be able to have that kind of security, the protection that Angelina talked about in that financial house from the beginning. And so the question is, how do you feel about that? How does that make you feel about where you are right now in your financial journey? Are you at a place where you feel confident about your cash flow, where you know that your credit is strong, where you've got savings in the bank, you've got your insurance policies to protect you, and your investments are growing? Is that where you are, or is that where you want to be? And so that's what this is about, identifying for us where we are and how we got to this place, and then being able to identify our goals so that we can know what tasks we need to complete in order to accomplish them. So that requires education. We need to get smart about money. We need to understand, how does it work? You know, do you understand that process? What are some of the factors and features and benefits? Or are you really just kind of going along with the flow? The worst thing I can ever hear is something that a client shared with me just yesterday. She said that, you know, the money hits the bank and she doesn't even pay attention to it. And so we identified where she actually is in a situation where she's overpaying in her taxes, giving up additional monies where she would be able to now hold on to those funds so that she's able to put them into a place where they can grow and work for her. And that's how we get educated about how we can make our money work for us. It's just about shifting our thought process, shifting our perspective, really understanding how does money work, and letting go of that fear. So going back to emotion, one of the things that I often identify is that people are afraid of what is going to happen with their money if they pay too much attention to it. You know, sometimes people feel like if I don't know and I just leave it there, it's okay. You know, one story that I heard from a very famous author, she said that, you know, when she was starting her business, she actually would write a check from her paycheck every week, and she would mail it to the bank. She wouldn't even go to the bank. She would mail it to the bank so that it would be deposited, and she didn't have to look at it or see the balance or know how much money was in that account. And 5 years later, she went and checked on that account and was floored by the 5-figure number that was shared with her of what had grown in that account over time. But it was because she was afraid to look at it. My encouragement is that we need to make sure we're educated enough so that we can eliminate that fear. We take our financial power back when we understand how money works and we can make it work for us. That requires encouragement. Have you been encouraged lately? I mean, you all are here. So congratulations, first and foremost, you know, because this is a big step. Showing up is a big deal. And I'm going to say that over and over again. Congratulations. Because we need to have that encouragement. We need to have that boost. We need to have that push. We need to know that we're doing what's right, what is in our best interest. Oftentimes, we have been taught so much to look out for everyone else. We have been taught to look out for the best interest of others first. And what we often do is we end up leaving ourselves at a deficit. I'm going to share with you just a brief illustration. When you think about a cup, you know, sometimes we have that cup, right? And it's filled just halfway. The question in perspective, the psychological question would be, well, is it half full or is it half empty? I want you to write that down right now for me. Just think in your mind, what is the answer to that question? Write it down on a piece of paper for yourself. Is that cup half full or is it half empty? Okay. So based on your response, the psychologist would identify whether or not you have a positive or negative perspective. Okay. If you said that cup was half empty, then they would identify that you had a negative perspective because you were looking at what was missing from the cup, right? But if you look at that cup as being half full, then they're saying that you have a positive perspective because you're looking at what is in the cup as being the value, right? Well, I tell you this, either way, if your cup is full only halfway, you do not have enough to serve other people. If your cup is only full halfway, you do not have enough to serve other people. What's in the cup belongs to you. And if you take half of what's in that cup to try to serve somebody else, what are you left with? Now it's only a quarter of the cup. And that leaves us depleted. So we have to really rethink, how do we value our money and what are we doing in terms of best interest? Are we looking out for the best interest of others, or are we making sure that we're looking out for our best interest first? I call this the self-first principle. It's something I talk about in the book, Time to Thrive. The self-first principle is not about being selfish. It's not about, oh, you're not going to do anything for nobody else because everything is for you. Oh, you're going to take it all and, you know, you're not going to think about anybody else. You're not concerned about them because, you know, that's not your problem. That's not your issue. That's a selfish attitude. But what we're talking about is self first. We're talking about making sure that that cup is full, that you keep your cup full and that everything in the cup, again, belongs to you. But when that cup gets full and it's to the brim, what happens when you pour some more in? Then it starts to overflow, right? Yeah, it's going to overflow. And whatever comes out of the cup, that is what you can share with others. So say this with me. And there is on my website a mantra that I created. It is what I call the Mari Moore Life Mindset Reset. And this is to help encourage us and to inspire us, to motivate us through any of the challenging times that we may experience where our money is concerned. So if you ever feel yourself, feeling that fear or panic or anxiety, just take a brief moment and breathe. So the breathing technique is that you breathe into your nose twice and out your mouth once. This is actually a neurological reset, which helps to help increase the flow of the happy hormones in your body. So like your serotonin, your endorphins, your dopamine, and your adrenaline. I talk about this in the book as well. And you take that breath and you go in through your nose twice and out through your mouth. Exhale. And then you do it one more time. And I love that exercise because it just helps to bring the calm. It helps to give you some peace. So when you sit down and do your checkbook, I know we don't do checkbooks anymore. I was raised when we were handwriting checks. Okay, look, I look young. But anyway, with being able to go through and balance your checkbook, when you go online and you're checking your account to make sure that you haven't overspent and that you have enough coming in, you want to do that breathing technique so that you can put yourself in a happy place. Then you want to tell yourself these 5 statements, very simple. I am enough. I have enough. I do enough. The source is my provider, and so it is. What that helps us to recognize is that where you are right now in your life is enough to get you to where you want to go. What you have right now in your life is enough to get you to the next step. What did Martin Luther King say? He said, you don't have to see the whole staircase as long as you can take the next step. And that's it. So what you're doing is getting yourself to the next step in your life, in your financial life, on your journey to self-sufficiency. And I hope that you find that encouraging so that you can continue to take steps forward every single day. The next thing we need to pay attention to is empowerment. Do you know the rules of money? Are you aware of your rights? Or are you just listening to what's been told to you and going right along with the other person's program? They always say that there's 2 sides to every contract. There's the side of the one who wrote the contract, and then the side of the one who's going to sign the contract. So who do you think that contract was written in the best interest of? The one who's going to sign it or the one who wrote it? And so it is, again, going back to education, it is our responsibility to make sure that we understand the rules and know our rights so that we can continue to do what? Look out for our own best interest. We have to do that to make sure that our cup stays full. You don't want your cup to be depleted. You don't want it to be half full. No, half full is not enough. We're going to make sure that cup is full to the top and then overflowing. So then you have enough to share with your cousin who wants to borrow a few dollars, or your mama who needs your help, or your children who are struggling. Those situations are real life, and it happens. Everyone experiences those challenges. We all have faced at some point in time a trauma, which has affected us financially. The question is, have you taken the time to pay enough attention to that trauma so that you could do the work necessary to heal from it? When you heal from the trauma, then you're able to manage your response so that you're able to do, what are those two things I said at the beginning of our presentation? We want to create better habits, right? And then we want to experience a greater quality of life. That quality of life is not just on a financial standard. You know, a lot of times people think quality of life is, oh, you got to have all the luxurious things. If you're not driving, you know, a big luxury car, then you're not going to be happy. There are some people who just don't want all of those things. They want a simple life. They want to live minimally, and the less material things they have, the happier they can be, the more content they can be in themselves. And then there's some people, kind of like myself, who like all of the glitter and glitz. We gotta have the pretty things. I love crystal. I love diamonds, you know, and so I have to do a little extra work in order to get to the level where I want to be financially. But I also have to understand how to be satisfied with or without those things, because material things can come and go. And this was not a part of my presentation, but I'm just going to share this brief story with you for a moment. It was through the holidays. I was driving around to see a client, and I was driving on one road, kind of back in the woods, and I saw that the fire trucks had just come. And down the road that I drove past, I could actually see a house engulfed in flames. And for me, it was such an emotional moment. I cried for them, because I could feel the pain of the loss that they just had. It was so unexpected. I could only imagine that maybe that morning was a Saturday morning. I know it was Christmas Eve. So it was right before, you know, the holiday. And yes, I work throughout the holidays. But for that moment, in that situation, all I could think to myself is, wow, somebody got up, wanted to fix breakfast, and just things got out of hand. Maybe they got distracted and walked away from the pan. You know, maybe they didn't understand fire safety, and instead of pouring flour or sugar on, or salt rather, never sugar, y'all, flour or salt on the grease fire, they poured water, and it got bigger. And so their house was in flames for the holiday. You know, that was something that really, it touched me. And so the question is, when we run into those circumstances, is it going to completely shift us out of our satisfaction with life because we face a challenge? When we're in the mindset of being able to recognize our peace, then whether we have or do not have those material things really doesn't matter, because we understand that that's not the definition of our happiness or peace. Those things can contribute to it, but it's not the definition. The definition is within us. And see, when we understand our financial empowerment, then we recognize that we have the power that whenever we lose something, or whenever something is taken away from us, we're able to get it back again. And so that's where we find our strength to be able to stand on our 2 feet and be able to continue moving forward, so that we are not caught in the trauma, that we're not continually affected by those triggers, but that we're able to manage our responses and to be healthy in the way that we manage our money and that we manage our mindset.
Yvette, thank you so much. I know you're still sharing, and we're loving all the details and just the intricate parts of understanding our mind and how it works and the decisions that we make. And so we just wanted to remind everyone that Yvette will be answering your questions live this evening. So please feel free to put those questions in the chat. And we also would like to place a poll at this time. So please be ready to respond to this question, yes or no, while the poll is launching, and we will come back to this question later on in the presentation. So we are launching now, and the question is, before everyone, is there a correlation between psychology and the neurology or the neuroscience of our financial decision making? Again, is there a correlation between psychology and the neuroscience of our financial decision making? So please answer those questions. The poll is still going right along. And it's anonymous, so we can't see who says what. We just want you to participate. Okay, we thank you for that. We're going to stop sharing now, and we're just making note. And Kivette, thank you so much for that. And we are going to continue on with the presentation.
Absolutely. Thank you. And so with that, that is the reason why I wrote this book, Time to Thrive. Now, Time to Thrive actually stands for transform your mind and transform your money to thrive. And it is the result of my personal experience. So I survived 3 major traumas in less than 2 years. In 2017, I survived Hurricane Maria. I was living in Puerto Rico at the time. Didn't think that the storm was going to be as bad as it was, and lived through not only the storm, but the devastation afterwards. It literally leveled everything in sight. My business that I had the day before could no longer be worked. That meant my income was completely gone, and I had to figure out what was I going to do now to earn money and support my family. That was a challenge, right? Then almost less than 18 months later, in December of 2018, I was notified that my father here in the States had passed away. He passed away with no will and no life insurance in place. And I had to come back and handle his final affairs and be responsible for his estate. That was another financial challenge and a money trauma. In the midst of that, I dealt with the dissolution of my marriage. I had been married at that time for 17 years. It was an abusive relationship, unfortunately. But fortunately for me, this brought me into a place where I was able to have the veil lifted, and I was able to gain freedom from that abusive relationship. That was a blessing. Even though it was a trauma, it still left me at a place where I was over 40 years old. I had no money, I had no assets, and I had no retirement. So what in the world was I going to do at that point in my life, right? All I could do was start over. But having the financial education that I did gave me an advantage because I know how money works. I knew what I needed to do. What I also knew was that I had not, been at this level for all my life. Like I have had money in the past and have had money, been able to get it again as I've been growing my business now. But in that process, I wanted to make sure that I did not get to that place again, because there were some decisions that I made that allowed me to get to that point. And so I had to take responsibility for that. I had to understand what was the role that I played in those circumstances coming up. And so that's where the mindset awareness became prominent for me. I knew that it wasn't just being financially educated that was going to save me, that was going to allow me to re-elevate, that was going to allow me to grow again. I know of people who are at 6 and 7 figures, and you all have heard of them, some famous people who live at 6 and 7 figures and are still living from paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, they struggle at 6 and 7 figures. Like you would think at 7 figures, you're good, right? When I heard the story that Chris Rock shared on a podcast during COVID-19, he said that he had some of his rich and famous friends calling him, asking if he would buy their luxury vehicles, asking if he would buy some of their luxury clothing, their luxury material things, because they had lived their life at such a high level of financial expense that they did not anticipate that if something happened that took that income away, that they would now be in a deficit. There are many people who have put themselves in that position. I think COVID-19 taught all of us a very vast lesson about our financial management. But for them specifically, it just proved true, my thinking in terms of the mindset awareness, to make sure that we put ourselves in a position where we're able to find the satisfaction that we need in life so that we can continue to be abundant and prosperous in the way that our cup will continue to overflow, right? And that requires for us to be conscious on 5 levels. So we want to look at our mental awareness. We want to look at our emotional awareness. We want to look at our spiritual awareness, our physical awareness, and then, of course, our financial awareness. The mental part, because our thoughts contribute to our emotions, the way that we feel. And so what are you telling yourself on a daily basis? What are you thinking about? When you go to the mirror, what do you say to yourself? You say, hey, gorgeous. Hello, gorgeous, right? Good morning. How beautiful you are, how amazing this day is going to be. Or are you talking that negative talk that we really want to kind of ease out so that we're able to now create a more positive balance for ourselves? That will affect your spirituality. Because if you are beating up on yourself, then what you're doing is beating up on the creation, right? Are you telling the creator that what he made was not good, right? We know that we have been wonderfully made. And so we have to take the opportunity to rejoice in that, to build ourselves up in that, to continue to remind ourselves that even when we face those challenges, we have everything we need to not only survive, but to thrive. And I'm going to tell you why. You're here today. And you know what that means? That means that you have a 100% record for overcoming every challenge that you've ever faced. How about that? You have a 100% success rate for overcoming every challenge that you have ever faced this far. So guess what's going to happen when the next one comes along? That's right. You're going to handle that too. I know you will. Yeah, because you got it. You have it within you. You were created with the strength, with the fortitude, with the intelligence, with the knowledge, with the drive and the determination to be able to not just survive, but to thrive. So the question is, how are you going to get to that place? It is taking an opportunity to reset your mindset, to be aware of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, your spiritual connection, and how that affects you in your physical body. Many of us have ailments that are not even related to anything going on in our bodies. Those ailments are related to emotional issues. It may be heartbreak. It may be stress. It could be overwork. You know, we have to take an opportunity to pause for a moment, because if we just keep going like the little engine that could, then we're going to give out, because we're not machines. We were not built with steel and iron to just keep chugging along. We have to take the opportunity to do what? To put yourself first. To make sure that you are able to look out for your own best interest, so that then your cup will remain full and running over, and you can abundantly serve your community. And that requires you to be physically healthy. Y'all have heard it before. Health is wealth, right? Health is wealth, and that's the truth. And so we want to make sure that we are paying attention to how we can continue to cultivate that within ourselves. Health is wealth because healthy people are capable of doing what's necessary, the work necessary in order to earn the funds to increase the cash flow and to manage their money properly. If you're sick and in the hospital, there is no way you're going to be able to manage your investments. If you're a real estate investor, you can't go check out that house because you're laying in a hospital bed. You know, if you have not taken care of yourself, then and you are dealing with these ailments that have overwhelmed you because of either the emotional or the mental or the spiritual or even some physical challenges that have been your responsibility. I know that some are facing physical challenges that are not your responsibility, but you know that I'm not talking to you. It's those who are causing themselves these unnecessary challenges, and you know who you are. And I've been there, so I'm not judging you. I've done that, and I've been able to heal from it. And I say that because if I could do it, then I know you can do it too. And so being able to pay attention to your physical health means that now you're going to be able to pay attention to your financial wealth. And that's where we start here with just the basic budget, being able to understand how to balance that out. And we're going to talk about that a little more in the future. But once you get this mindset awareness down, now it's time for us to go right on to our money strategy. Now you've got those positive mindsets, those affirmations, those mantras where you're going to continue to tell yourself you are cash flow confident, that you are powerful in your finances, that you are managing your money. You are continuing to thrive and not just survive. And it starts with being able to understand the 5 major principles of money strategy. And I mentioned them before, but you can take an opportunity to write them down so that you will keep note of this. Okay. Your foundation is cash flow. Why? Because if you have no cash flow, you have nothing. You have nothing else. You know, and oftentimes I'm a licensed life and health insurance agent. Oftentimes I have to tell my clients, I cannot serve you yet. Not with a life insurance policy because your budget is not going to manage it. And I'm not going to put people in a position where they would now stretch their budget to have something that they would not be able to keep, because then that would only put them at a deficit. And so we want to make sure that we're putting ourselves in a position where we're able to benefit. Remember, keep your cup full and overflowing, right? Once you've got that cash flow, now you got some money you can manage. You can build up your credit because you can spend and you can pay. You can spend and then you can pay. And you've got some money that you can keep by putting in your savings account. You can pick a vacation place that you want to go to. You can choose what you want to do for your birthday. You can, just take a day off when necessary. You know what? I need to have a me day. I need to have a self first day. Can we do that? Can we have a self first day from time to time? And just maybe sit at home, do some meditation, do some writing, do some relaxation, and just not be stressed. Because when we get to that place, now we can focus in on, you know what, I've got this money saved up. Let me make sure that I'm protected. So I can save this money up and put it into a policy and be able to have the protection that I need so that we can lay that foundation for your future, right? And that's where you have your insurance. And then once you're able to protect yourself, now you can go and have some fun. We do not invest or encourage the investment of essential funds. That's like taking your rent money or your mortgage money and going to the casino. It's a no-no. You want to make sure that you are financially stable when you get to a point where you're going to make an investment and look for the return, because investing is a risk. And I'm going to talk about that risk a little later on too. But we want to be able to manage. These are the 5 areas of every portfolio. So oftentimes people say portfolio. Oh, I don't have any stocks. I don't have a portfolio. Yes, you do. You have a portfolio and it's being managed whether you're managing it or not. See, what my father didn't know was that he had a will, whether he determined it or not. Everybody has a will. Everybody has an estate plan. The state government and the federal government have already put those things kindly in place for you. But remember, we talked about those contracts, right? So who do you think wrote those contracts? The state, the federal government. Yep. And so who are those contracts going to benefit? Yep, you got it. It's going to benefit the state and it's going to benefit the federal government. So if you don't take the time to determine for yourself and your family beforehand what's going to happen with the things that you've worked so hard to earn and put together, you could be putting them in a position to lose to the state or the federal government. Because yes, I learned when my father passed away that I had to pay taxes for him after he passed away. He was a double business owner, and I single-handedly had to dissolve those businesses. Now, thankfully, my financial education came into play. I was able to, maneuver some things, work some things out. We were able to preserve an inheritance, make sure that everything was taken care of, but it was still challenging. And I was only able to accomplish that in 9 months because I jumped in with both feet, like literally did not work either of my businesses. Any of my businesses that I had going at that time. I had a business in Puerto Rico that I had started up, and I just had to leave it because I knew that this was an opportunity for me at that point to reset financially, and I needed to take advantage of it. But I had to mentally get myself to the place where I was ready to do that. Are you ready to do that for yourself right now? Are you ready to take advantage of the opportunities that are right in front of you? I say that opportunities are like cars. Okay. So I don't know if you've ever heard this illustration before, but I thought it was perfect. You know how when you go buy a new car, you see something on the lot that you have never, ever seen on the street. And you're like, oh, that's going to be my car. I love it. Oh, it's bright red. And it's got the cute little, windows and the style. I love the headlights. And oh my goodness, when I go out with this little sunroof, yes, I can get the sun in the summertime. I'm going to have a good time with this car. I love it. I love it. Nobody has this car. It's going to be mine. I'm going to be the first. Ha, ha, ha. Right? So you go ahead and you get that car and you drive off the lot. Why on the way home do you see 3 cars exactly like yours? Well, because now your mind has been opened up to see those kind of cars. But if you weren't looking for that car before, because you weren't looking for that car before, you never even noticed that it was there. The same thing exists with opportunities. Opportunities are right in front of us, but if we're not looking for them, we will never see them. So pay attention, be clear, be conscious of what you want, set your goals, be clear, be conscious of what your goals are so that you know what to look for and identify, again, the steps, the task necessary to be accomplished or completed in order for you to accomplish those goals. That way, you'll be able to take advantage of every opportunity that comes your way. Okay, so now we talked about being able to manage our mindset where finances are concerned, starting with a basic budget. This here, ladies, is the key. This is the key to how each and every one of us needs to balance our budget. Now, understanding that the average American income is about $68,000 a year. Okay. We want to understand how much do we need to be paying for our transportation? How much do we need to be spending on entertainment? Yes, entertainment and recreation need to be a part of your budget because we need to be well-rounded. We can't keep just paying bills and not taking care of ourselves. Remember, self first. The challenge is that if we're not making enough, then we may have to increase our cash flow so that then we will be able to have that cup overflowing, right? So we want to pay attention to how we can do that with the opportunities that come in front of us. But these other areas of interest, you want to make sure that you are paying attention to your savings and investing, your debt payments, your insurances, your medical and health care, your utilities, and of course, your household expense is going to be primary. Housing should be only 27.8% of your income. If your housing is costing you 50% of your income, which I find many clients are in that position, then it's too much. You have to rethink your housing or rethink your cash flow. Okay. And then I work with them to understand, how can you increase your cash flow? What are things that we can do? And how can we preserve our cash flow? Because remember, it's not just about what we spend, but it's about what we keep. And so one of the things that I did with that client was help her to understand how she was paying too much money to Uncle Sam up front. She was afraid of owing the government. She didn't want to owe IRS no money. I said, honey, look, I love owing the IRS because that means I got to spend my money first. Did you think about that? That means that you get to spend your money first. You're not overpaying them. You get to put that money in a place where it's going to work for you and you can earn the interest. And then you'll be able to say, when that tax bill comes through, now you can pay them what you owe, but you're not going to pay them a penny more. When you pay them more, than what you're doing is giving away your financial power. You actually give the government the opportunity where they can because you better believe they're going to put that money in interest-bearing accounts, in investments, and they're going to earn what's in their best interest. And so now it's time for you to take the opportunity to shift your mindset and to understand what is in your best interest and to make some new decisions so that you're able to care for yourself first. Okay. So the next slide here is going to talk about how we need to make sure we're conscious of potential risk. And this is where we're able to protect ourselves. Do you know that when you keep your money in the bank, it is potentially at risk for all of these things? If the government decides that you owe taxes and they want to put a tax lien on your bank account, they can. If the market goes up or down, if your money is in the bank, if you've got a money market account, that money can go down in the account. With inflation, oh my goodness, we've just seen inflation. Okay, and I'm going to clear something up for y'all real quick about inflation, because we've been hearing in the news that it was like 8 to 10%. And I prefer to go with what I see and what I know, as opposed to hearing, what somebody wants to tell me. And so doing the research for myself, being out in the stores, being able to make the comparisons. Just a few months ago, like there was in the grocery store, a lady came up and she says, wait a minute, what happened to these mushrooms? This can of mushrooms was 25 cents last week. And today it's $1.09. That is the cost of inflation. When the price of products increased by 300%, what are you going to do with your money in the bank? Do you have it in a place where it's going to be protected, or at least have an opportunity to grow to combat that? Or will you continue to deplete your funds because you now have put it in a place where it's at risk? Emergencies come up. When we save our money in the bank, emergencies come up. I know some people who use their savings accounts the same way as bank accounts, checking accounts. And we have to be conscious of making sure that if we do have a savings account, then we're not going into it like it's a checking account, that we actually put that money away and we keep it in a place where it's going to be protected, safe, away from us. Not necessarily writing that check and putting it in the mail and not seeing the account balance. We want to be conscious, but we also want to make sure that we're not putting ourselves in a position where we're going to be the ones who cause the deficit. Also disability. If you have a disability, then of course you are not able to have the cash flow, and you want to make sure that you're taking care of your responsibilities. That money in the bank is going to spend really quickly. So do you have the protection that you need in that case? I know Angelina talked about that before in one of her presentations, the long-term care, and how we need to make sure that we're covered for that. Those are things that we need to be conscious of, that even if you can't do it today, don't dismiss it. Don't dismiss it. Take an opportunity to take note, because it's going to be like that car on the street. Once you get it, you're going to see how many people had it around you and you didn't even know, right? The lawsuits can make your bank account funds vulnerable. Fraud obviously can make your bank account funds vulnerable, outliving your money, and even death. And so we want to make sure that we put ourselves in a position to be protected. Okay. Then finally, I want to share this rule with you. Remember that judge with her little gavel. She's going to tell you what your rights are and the rules of money and how all this works. Well, this is where you can start. The rule of 72. Now, I don't know how many of y'all already know this. I would love to see a hand raise on that. How many already know the rule of 72, or how many have never even heard of this before? Because I know when I first heard it the first time, I was like, what is that? No, didn't know anything about it. But this is how we calculate how long it takes for our money to double. Okay. So when you put your money into an account, say your 401k, right? So we've got an IRA with the growth rate of 10%. And then at the age of 45, if you put $5,000 in that account, then it's going to take 7.2 years for that money to double because it's at 10%. You see how that works? So you multiply the interest rate by 72, and then you multiply that to understand how many years it's going to take for your money to double. So when we got 7 years, then that's from 45 to 52, and then from 52 to 59, and we see that double again. And then from 59 to 66, we see that double again. Okay. And so that's where you want to be. You want to be competent about the interest that you have available to you. It just takes a few minutes for us to do some research, to have a conversation with a financial advisor. Angelina said, here, we're just giving you education. This is just knowledge. But when you leave this room, you want to make sure that you have an opportunity to sit down with an actual financial advisor, the one who's going to serve you. The person that you choose, that you know you click with, you love their energy, you know that they're looking out for your best interest, they're working from a fiduciary perspective, and that you're going to be able to have that cup full and overflowing, that they want to see your cup full and overflowing so that you will be able to have that self-sufficiency that we talked about. Okay, so then there's 3 things that you can do. And this is all for free. You can take an opportunity to join the thriving community at Mari More Life, where you're able to get access to free resources and rewards. You saw that budget wheel there. On that resource, in the Community Resource Center, there is an actual budget sheet with the breakdown of the percentages so that you can go and print that off for yourself and see what your balanced budget needs to actually look like. I do that because this is what we need in order to take our next steps. If we're not fully equipped, then how can we fight the battle? How can we go out and be great? How can we wake up and say, hello, gorgeous? How can we be that if we don't have the tools? So we need to have the tools in place. And it is absolutely free. It costs you nothing to join the community there and take advantage of those resources. My next encouragement would be to have a copy of the book. I know that Angelina is going to be giving away a couple of them today, so I'm excited about that. But with this book, you're able to go through the 10 steps for yourself. And I'm going to show you just briefly what I love the most. And that is that after every chapter, there is a worksheet. Now, you don't have to actually get a physical copy of the book in order to get the book. It is on ebook. And so you're able to go to Amazon, and I know they have sales from time to time. They will drop it down to a penny or down to 99 cents. And you'll be able to go and get a copy of the ebook where you can now take advantage of using those worksheets and look out for your own best interests. The next thing, and finally, is to schedule a clarity connection. And guess what, y'all? That's free too. You get to talk with a financial advisor for 15 minutes at no charge. You'd be amazed at how much you can get accomplished in such a little bit of time, but it only takes that much to understand. Remember, we're not going down a whole staircase. We just get into the next step. Okay. So I am Kivette Minor-Kane, your financial liberation expert. I am so grateful to have been here with you ladies this evening. I hope that the information I shared has truly been beneficial for you, that you will be able to put it into application for yourselves and to see yourselves continue to grow in your financial journey.
Wonderful, Kivette. Oh my goodness, there has been so many jewels you have dropped on us. I know you're a woman of many jewels. So, this is just wonderful. And I just want to take a few minutes to kind of give us a little synopsis of some of this great information. And just remember that we at the Fairfax County Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, we will provide options for you to go back and listen to this wonderful presentation. So I will drop that jewel in the chat momentarily. And again, Kivette, this has just been so amazing. And in the interim, while I am sharing this recap, please take a look in the chat, everyone. You will have an opportunity now to ask your questions. So please do not prevent yourself from potentially getting an autographed signed book from Kivette Minor-Kane with The Time to Thrive. So again, ask your questions. There is no question that will go unanswered this evening. In addition to that, you will see a notation here that we would like for you to complete the evaluation. There is a link in the chat now, and it will take you only a few minutes to complete. This tells us as a committee how well we're doing, what more we could be doing, what you're interested in learning about. So a lot of these presentations come forward because of the wonderful reviews and the information that you, our community, are asking us for. And we're bringing it for free. Although we do not solicit, we are providing an educational, informational session. So Kivette, I wrote down quite a few things here, and I love the fact that you spoke about, create better habits, which is just so important. You spoke about emotions and self-sufficiency and being aware of our emotions and how they have come about in our thought process. In addition to that, my favorite little note that I wrote here that you shared was this: I am enough. I love that. And it says here, I have enough. I do enough. And the source is my provider. And so it is. I mean, I jotted that down. I'm like, oh my goodness, this right here is amazing. And then you spoke about the cup being, whether it is half full or half empty, our perspective and what others may say about our perspective. But at the end of the day, as you shared, we are emotional beings. We go through trauma. But then in that sense, we can still learn how to overcome, as you have taught us this evening. And we can still continue to grow, even if we have to start over. So starting over doesn't mean I failed. It means I have gained a lesson and I am going to continue to move forward in my financial future. No matter what my past is not going to determine my future. So again, just so powerful. So with that and our wonderful synopsis, we are right on time, ladies and gentlemen, this evening. We are going to turn it over to Sarah Alcee, who is going to go through and let us know where we are with our questions. And then we're going to then go on into Sarah Deshawn, who is going to share with us what we have on Facebook Live. So Sarah Alcee.
Hello, I want to say thank you, Kivette, again for sharing some of your points. I was like, she could just stop right there because she just said a whole word. But so far, we have 2 questions in the chat. The first one says, how does the 10% tithe fit into the thought process, i.e. waiting for the overflow before giving instead of giving the tithe first?
All right. And that is a spiritual question. I believe that each and every one of us have to determine for ourselves what that relationship with our Creator looks like, what that means for us, and how we define that in our finances. We absolutely have to be connected to our community. So whether you're giving back to your church or another charitable organization, or you're helping out a family member or friend or neighbor, that is the way that we're able to give back. The challenge is that we are not able to give back to others when we don't have enough for ourselves. And so we do have to make sure that we are cared for so that we can get to a place where we're in the position to then be able to give to others. And I hope that answers the question.
Thank you for your answer. Our second question is, what is your advice on how to find a financial advisor suitable for your specific needs? This person needs to find another financial advisor. Mm-hmm. And also in finding a new financial advisor, if you already have one, what is a good way to break up with your current one if they are not helping you reach your goals?
Okay. Well, it's funny because I look at financial advisors kind of like you look at doctors. I believe that we're all specialists, so there's the same thing there. We have different areas of specialty that we can work in. There are some who are general practitioners. And so what you may need to find is a general practitioner financial advisor, someone who deals with your planning and your life finances so that then they're able to kind of direct you in whatever, area you need to go for the specialist, whether you're looking for a realtor or you're looking for a specific kind of insurance agent, because there's, life insurance and property insurance and casualty. I mean, there's so many different things. But to really have someone who can be well-rounded, that's where you want to find yourself. And I believe that just like when you go to the doctor and you receive a prescription or a diagnosis, it is always in your best interest to get a second opinion. So that doesn't mean that you have to break up with your current financial advisor if they've been beneficial to you in any way. If you do want to break up with them, you break up with them the same way you do your doctor. You just don't go back. But you want to make sure, again, that you're looking out for your best interest. And the best thing that any of us can do is to get financially educated, to make sure that you're attending every single one of these seminars that are available to us so that you're able to add to your financial repertoire and have good questions when you go in to see this financial advisor. So, it's just like, the difference between going to the doctor and expecting them to know everything about you, which they haven't been with you for 24 hours a day. They don't know what you did when you were at home eating, those donuts and fried chicken. But if you, have a challenge and you tell them about it, oh, you know what, doc, I bumped my knee on the table. And so this is happening. And, I do, run a lot and I'm feeling this ache or pain in my hips here and there. And so they can tell you how to manage it. But you have to be conscious of what's going on with you first. And so my encouragement to you would be to first be your own financial advisor in terms of getting educated so that you know the right questions to ask when you go into a professional.
Right. Thank you for that answer. That was very, never thought of it that way, financial advisor being like a doctor. Our next question is, does your book address what steps to take with a 401k and an IRA after retirement?
No, the book does not go into the specifics of your financial management. This is kind of a general overview to help you understand what those 5 areas of the portfolio look like: the cash flow, the credit, the savings, the insurance, and the investment, so that you're able to level up your knowledge and be aware. But you would want to definitely speak with your own personal financial advisor in order to get those specific questions answered. They are the only ones who would be able to look at your accounts, to look at your timeline, to look at your personal expenses and your goals, which are going to be different from anybody else, so that they can then give you the necessary advice about what options and opportunities are available for you moving forward. Now, understand, this person is not in place where they're going to tell you what to do, because that's not what we're here for. That's not even what your doctor is there for. Your doctor is not supposed to be the one telling you what to do. What they're doing is sharing the options and opportunities so that you are educated enough to make the best decision for you. You know you better than anybody else. So you understand what the symptoms and what the challenges and what the solution is going to be for you. What you're looking for is guidance.
Right. Yeah. Questions just keep rolling in. So I'm gonna do about 3 more, and then I'll see if there are any Facebook questions, and then we can come back. On average, how many bank accounts should any one person have?
That just depends on the person. My tax accountant laughed at me when I took all of my account information to her, because I balance my accounts or I manage my accounts for specific purposes. So there is, for me, I encourage, and even for my clients, I would recommend having a deposit account, which is separate from your expense account. And then, of course, having at least one savings account. Now I have 2, which one is the savings for emergencies, and then one is the savings for a specific purpose. So I have, at least those 4 accounts. Then if you have a business, then it based on how you're managing your business, those savings accounts and those checking accounts could increase. But the thing is to make sure that you're tracking them all, and that you understand the purpose that each one of them serves, that you set up a system that works best for you. Because somebody can tell you, oh, you should eat oatmeal every morning for breakfast, but you hate oatmeal, then don't eat oatmeal, So it's really a personal preference, but that's one of the things that I do.
All right. I am one of those people who does not like oatmeal for breakfast. Savings account versus investments or stocks, which ones give you the better rate of return?
Oh, that's easy. Okay, so your savings account is going to yield you on an average 0.06%. 0.06%. Okay, so that's about $1 for every $1,600 you've got in the account. About. Then your stock investments can go up. You can have 10 to 12%, going on up, even upwards of that. I know of some investments that have, 20, 30, 40% yields. But then you also have the risk of losing. So the question for you is, how have you established your cash flow? Do you have your savings in place? Do you have your credit profile being managed so that you're in a positive credit profile? Do you have the insurances that you need in place to mitigate risk? And then after you've got all of those things in place, do you have your play money?
That makes sense. It's the last question I'm going to ask before going over to Facebook, but then we will come back. How do you know which investments to look into? And since the interest rates are constantly changing, which ones would be best?
Okay, so I can give you a couple of references for this. I am not an investment manager and do not profess to be. And, I've kind of gotten into a little bit myself, but I'm kind of the person, I'm almost as bad as one of my clients. I put the money in the investment account and I don't even watch it because it's the play money. That's the extra money. It's like, it's there. It's not going to manage anything for me on the essential side. But however, I do pay attention to those who I know are more knowledgeable. And so I look for multiple opinions. I can give you a couple of references. One that I use on a regular basis, I go to Market Mondays for Earn Your Leisure. It's a YouTube podcast where you can go and they are there. They have some very knowledgeable folks who are in the market on a regular basis, both in the stock market and in the cryptocurrency. And you can listen to what they say in terms of their knowledge so that you know what to look for when you do your own research. Hear that? When you do your own research, because the only way you're going to know what's best for you is by knowing what's best for you.
All right. Deshawn, do we have any Facebook questions?
We do not have any Facebook questions.
All right, thank you. I will continue on with the questions we have here, and thank you everyone for putting your questions in the chat. Make sure I didn't skip any. Okay. Do you have any specific tips for younger savers? So much of the rules around savings have changed for younger generations, given the less access to money and higher rates of inflation than for previous generations.
Yes. For younger people, I would say start saving as early as you possibly can. You know, as a life and health insurance agent, people ask me all the time, well, how soon should I get a policy for my kids? And I'm like, I know there's some insurance companies that have policies for unborn children. So if you can do that, do it, because you want to start as soon as you possibly can. What designates the cost for you when you're looking at something like that is age and health. And so you want to make sure that you are putting yourself in a position to pay the least when you're the youngest and the healthiest. So today would be a great day to start. Then you also want to look at, again, those interest rates. What's in your best interest? Oftentimes, people will say, oh, I'm going to put it in a savings account at the bank. You're only getting 0.6%, 0.06% rather. And again, that's $1 for every $1,600 you've got in there. But you want to maybe find an account where you can get a 4% yield on a regular basis and not have the loss of risk. There are insurance cash value accounts that allow that to happen. Then there's folks who, say, no, you know what, I've got this extra money to play with and I want to go into the stock market. Let me, get some quick cash. Some went into cryptocurrency and were able to make a great return. It just depends on where the market is and how you're doing that. And just remember not to spend your essential monies when you're looking at investing, because there is that risk of loss. You don't want to take away the self-sufficiency that your future self can have. You want to make sure that you are protecting that you are promoting that you are conscious of how you're building up that self-sufficiency. And so whatever you do with your money, just make sure that it's in your best interest.
All right. Thank you. Someone wants to know what your thoughts are about manifesting the financial future you desire.
Oh, thoughts are reality. We create our reality. We have to understand that. On one side of things, I identify myself as a financial healer. And I say that because I understand money on an energetic level, recognizing that there are frequencies to everything that exists in our space. You hear people talking about being high frequency and low frequency. Well, what are you attracting to yourself? That's where we talk about the law of attraction. And that's why I talk about the thoughts that we have about ourselves. When you go to the mirror every day, if you're telling yourself negative things and beating yourself up, guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up feeling negative and looking beat up because that's what you've done. But if you go in and you're telling yourself positive things, good morning, gorgeous. Hey, beautiful. I'm fabulous. I am brilliant. I am intelligent. I am smart. I am kind. I am loving. I am loved. I am lovable. Those kinds of things, then you promote a higher energy within yourself and you're going to attract what you are. You've heard the saying, birds of a feather flock together. Right? There's truth to all of those cliches. Lord have mercy. Can we go down the list? But it's the truth. You are going to attract to you what you are. So that's where your mindset shift makes the greatest difference. When you start to project the positive, when you are being productive, and when you're focusing on your progress, you will attract like minds and you will attract like circumstances.
It's very good. You have to put in the work and can't just say it and expect that you just poof happen.
Absolutely.
What about CD accounts? Are those beneficial?
I've had CDs when I was a kid. I would say anything that grows money is always going to be beneficial. It's just about what you want to do and how long you're going to keep it. Where are you going to put it? And what are you going to do with it in the future? It's about creating a plan and making sure that you stick to that plan once you've made a determination. The greatest challenge I find for people is distraction. And I'm going to give you a reference because I love, love, love this book. I've listened to it twice on road trips, and you can find it free on YouTube. It is called Outwitting the Devil. And I believe it's either Dale Carnegie or Napoleon Hill. But the title of the book is Outwitting the Devil. And the storyline is the devil is giving this perspective of how he works on mankind in society. And I will just give you, the premise, but you can go and hear it for yourself if you like. The premise is that there is this balance or this challenge between distraction versus determination. And in the book, in the story, in the reading, the devil talks about how the ones who are distracted are the ones that are easy prey for him because they haven't made any decisions. And so they're wavering and he's easy to direct them. But when you've made a determination, when you've made a decision for yourself, then you no longer are vulnerable and you can protect yourself. So I hope that helps.
That does help. I believe we have one more question. Let me find it. These questions are coming in.
And while you're looking for that, Elsie, just to note everyone, please do complete the evaluation. We're right at 8:01, so we want to be respectful of your time. We're just going to be wrapping up here very shortly. In the interim, we are going to post that poll very quickly. We want to see what your thoughts are again. So let's go ahead and post that poll one more time and see if your response remains the same or has changed while Elsie is taking a look at the questions there. The poll should be coming up in just a moment. And please, if you didn't get a chance to answer before, please answer the question for us. And that should be coming up right now. And the question is there a correlation between psychology and the neuroscience of our financial decision making? So please answer the questions. We'll review and reveal the results shortly. And if you've answered the question already, please still answer it now. It's not a problem. We want you to answer it so we know where you stand. And we had about 23% previously, so there's about 45 of us on here. So let's see if that number goes up any. And Elsie, while that's happening, is there any other questions for us?
Nope, those are all the questions that we have, but there are a lot of comments just thanking you for sharing, thanking you for giving us your wisdom. And someone says that their financial advisor is not as knowledgeable as you. So maybe it's time for them to find a new doctor.
Awesome. So we've gotten our poll there. So we are going to end the poll. Thank you so much for that. Okay, we appreciate everybody taking a moment to do that. And with that, now that we have our poll and the evaluations and our thanks to Kavette, we are going to turn it over to our one of our chairs here for our program and development. And I'm a chair for our Financial Fortitude Committee, but we want to turn it over to Sarah Regina Ware and then to our Madam President, Helene Fisher. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kavette Kane. I enjoyed this, whether that was me relearning some things or learning new things. The information was definitely valuable. And I think, Sarah, Angelina, you have covered all of the high points from the discussion, but I will share that my favorite one is the cup reference. You hear that all the time about is it half full or half empty, but you don't think about it overflowing, and that the overflow is where you can help others. So thank you for reminding us of that. And I truly have enjoyed it. And like Sarah Angelina has said, if you have not, please complete the survey. And we are seeing the thanks for this presentation. So I'm in agreement with that. And so I will turn it over to our president, Helene Fisher.
So I always absolutely love these events. Kavette, again, like everyone else, thank you so much for helping us understand the mindset of money matters. And it's, very useful, and it's going to be able to help us prepare for our money management. And as always, I want to thank our participants, our returning participants, our new participants. Thank you all for joining us. We had really, really great questions tonight. I love the presentation, but I equally love the questions because, you know, it always brings new insight to some of the information. So thank you so much for that. And we hope that our Financial Fortitude Friday series really meets the expectations of all of those who are participating with us and really provides some meaningful insights. We are going to keep up with these series, so please watch out for additional announcements for our future events. And as you heard, we will post tonight's replay, so look for that on our chapter website. And all of our previous events are posted on our website, so you can find them at fcacdst.org, fcacdst.org. We also have some of our other chapter activities and events that are coming up very soon, so please look at our events page. Some of those activities that are coming up are some applications for scholarships for high school students. So I'm sure that money-wise thing to do would be to get your high school seniors to fill out some applications for our scholarships. We have scholarships for our high school girls, and we also have book scholarships for high school boys. Let me make sure that's clear, senior high school students. So make sure that you take a look at that. And these are for students who are in the Fairfax County area. And I know that we have participants who are joining us from a lot of different places. And so make sure you look for chapters in your area who are probably doing the same thing as well. But again, remember to complete the evaluations and let us know what you think about our event. And with that, we wish you fortitude in building your financial futures. And we thank you so much for joining us on a wonderful Friday evening. Good evening, everyone, and have a great night.